We have discussed about what is inheritance, types of inheritance. In the types of inheritance, we have discussed about single, multi-level, hierarchical, as well as multiple inheritance. So in this class, it's also a part of this inheritance as a part of these OOPS concepts of Python. We'll be discussing about overriding and what is super method, what is overloading, as well as what is polymorphism in Python. Overriding in Python. So what is overriding? Very important concept. Try to listen it carefully. So if we create the same method in the child class, which is already present in parent class, this is called as overloading. Again, I'm repeating. See, in the parent class as well as in the child class, we may have methods or we may not have methods. It is upon our requirement we can create a method or not. But if you have a method in a parent class and the same method is also having with the same name in the child class, so then it is nothing but overriding. It is nothing but overriding. So I am saying, repeating again, same method in the child class which is already present in the parent class, right? Very important. So by this definition, you will not understand anything. So let me write another point before going to take example. Super function, or I can say super method, is used to invoke parent method from child class. Parent method from child class, very important. So during overriding, if I want to call any method from the child class, we use super method, right? So next important point, it is very important point before going to discuss any example. I'm trying to make you clear with these points. See, what is the use of overriding? Use of overriding is whatever methods created in the parent class, if we want to do any modifications, we can just recreate those methods in the child class. So what I'm doing, what is the use of this overriding? So already there is a method in the parent class, and the method which is already present in the parent class, I want to do some modifications, or I want to do some enhancements. So the method which is already defined in the parent class is not sufficient for me, or it is required, but I need some modifications in this method which is there in the parent class. So if I want to do any modifications, we just recreate those methods in the child class. Very important. So this is the use of overriding. What is the use of overriding? Again, I'm repeating. So it is used for modifications. So let me try to create one day 12 directory. And in the day 12 directory, let me create Python file of overriding. So here we are not just only overriding these methods. We can also override variables as well. Because every class contains variables as well as methods. So right now, let us try to take one example: overriding variables. How you override? So override is nothing but when you create the same method or a variable in the parent in the child class which is already present in the parent class. This is nothing but overriding. Let me create a class parent. So in the parent, just I am having only variable, that is class variable, that is suppose let me define one name as Scott, and let me create one class of name child which is inherited from parent. So what I am doing, I am trying to create the same variable or same variable name in the child class as well. So let me try to create name is equal to, suppose let me try to make that as jump. All right. So what I am doing, I am just overriding the variable. This is nothing but overriding variable which is already present in the parent class. So if you see, this is the parent class or a super class or a base class, and with this parent class, I'm trying to make a subclass or a derived class or a child class. So in the child class, if you see the name, variable name, and in the child class variable name are having same names. So this is nothing but overriding. Right? Let me create one method. In that method, let me try to call the variable which is present in the parent class. So if you see, if the name is different, then you can use by using self. So let me try to show you that difference as well. So let me try to use another variable as surname. If you see, surname is some some XYZ. I don't know his surname, just for randomly I have given his XYZ is his surname. So if you see, name variable is overridden in the child class, and if you see, surname is not overridden. Surname is not defined in the child class. So since it is also a class variable, I can try to access class variable by using self dot surname. But if you see, the name variable here and here is same, but even though its values are same, but its name is same. So I want to access the variable which is already defined in the parent class, also defined in the child class. So I can try to call that name variable which is overridden by using super method. So print of super dot name. So since it is a method, right, so I have to use brackets and as well as dot name, super dot name. If you see when you click or when you put a dot after super, it will try to highlight this name as well, right? What is the use of this super method? If I create a variable or a method which is already present in the parent class, when I create it in the child class, then I can use super method to call variables or methods from child class. That is a simple explanation of this. So let me try to create one variable like c obj, because c object, nothing but child object, is equal to child. It is an instance of child class, and with this instance, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to print the class variable of child class. So for printing, what I can do, print of c obj dot name. So upon calling this, it will try to print the variable which is there in the child class. Let me try to execute this. Yes, John has printed, which is the class variable of child class. So with the help of the same instance or object, I will try to call the method which is there in the child class. What is the method? It is test method. If you can see, upon calling this, it will try to execute surname, which is not overridden, which is present in the parent class. Even though it is present in the parent class, which is a class variable, for accessing the class variables, I have used surname, self. So by using this self dot surname, it has printed xyz. Right. Similarly, since the name is already there in the parent class, I'm trying to access the same name variable from the child class. So for that, I have used super dot name. So if I use print of self dot name, it will try to access only this variable value. So self dot name, this particular method is created under this child class. So I'm trying to call the class variable which is there in the child class. So in this case, it will try to print John. It is to be understood without confusion. Upon practice, you will get to know this. Right now, you will just try to see this. If you can see, surname, no, it's not surname. First, I have printed name, which is a class variable of child class, and thereafter I have printed surname, and thereafter I have printed the class variable of the child class. If you see, the class variable John has been printed, and you have called the variable from which is there in the parent class by using super method. So what is the use of super method? Again, I'm repeating. So super method is used to invoke parent method, or I can say parent variable from child class. What you are doing here, you are trying to access the parent class variable from child class, because you can access that with self. Then what is the difference between self and super here? You can see the name is same. So that is the reason, in order to not have any confusion, we are using super method. When I say super is nothing but parent. So for the parent class, what is the another name? Super class, or I can say base class. So what you are doing, you are trying to call the variable which is there in the parent class, but it is having the same name as child class. You should make the difference, right? So that is the reason why you are mentioning here super. That's it. So this is nothing but overriding the variables. So what you have done, you have just overridden the variable which is already there in the parent class. Now we will see how we will override the methods. So let me try to create one particular class again. So in this class, overriding methods. So let me try to create a class of bank, right? So in the class of bank, let me create one method. Suppose for every bank, one thing is common, interest. So let me create one class of interest, and in that, let me try to return it. Suppose I can say, let me try to return some random value. Let me try to take as 0. It will only return 0. So when I use return for a particular method, explicitly I have to use print. So if I use the print statement here directly, it will print, but it is returning. So I will capture that and will try to print. So anyway, I can do. And similarly, let me try to take another bank. So I'm not going to specifically name any bank. So let me take some XYZ bank so that you can understand better. So let me create a bank of X bank, which is inherited from bank. So in this, let me try to create the same method. Right. If you can see, when I create a same method, it is nothing but method overriding. What I am doing, I have created a child class which is nothing but X bank, which is inherited from the parent class, which is nothing but the bank. And if you can see, the methods names of parent class as well as the child class are same. And if you see here, it is overridden 10. It is returning 10 because if you can see, it is the reserve bank. So reserve bank says there is no interest, but banks can have their own interest. So without interest, they can't survive. So suppose if you can take SBI bank, it is having some rate of interest, right? So what here it is doing, already there is a method. It has overwritten according to its needs. This method has been overwritten. So RBI can lend you loan with 0% interest, but State Bank can lend you any loan with its own interest. It is having its own policy. Like, I have to lend a loan for 10% interest, like that. So if you can see, the same method which is there in the parent class is overridden according to its requirement. So it is nothing but modified. So this particular method is modified according to its requirement. Or I can say the same method which is there in the parent class is recreated. I can say, when I say recreated, it is nothing but modified according to its requirements. Recreated or modified. So, and let me create another bank, which is also inherited from the parent bank of Y. So let me take that as Y bank, and in this the interest will be, suppose if you can say HDFC. HDFC can have different interest rates, right? In general also every bank will offer different interest rates, but they will work under RBI. That is fine. But just for your understanding, I'm trying to make you understand that upon our requirement, we have just recreated the method which is already there in the parent class, right? This is nothing but method overriding. The method which is already there in the parent class, you have just recreated that method in the child classes based on your requirement. This is nothing but overriding. In the previous example, you have seen overriding the variables. Right now, you are seeing overriding the methods, right? So how you can try to call the methods in the respect to child classes. So similarly, as we have seen before during inheritance, in order to call any method, we have to use objects. So let me create one object of x, which is equal to x bank, and similarly, let me try to create one object of y bank, object y, and thereafter let me try to use this. So with the help of object of x bank, I can call the method which is there in the there in the child class as well as in the parent class. Let me try to do that with the help of object dot rate of interest. So this rate of interest pertains to that particular child only. So if I want to call the method from which is there in the parent class, I can use super. So because it is returning, I have to print its value. So what I'm doing after returning, I'm just print off, just trying to use this. And similarly, what I want to do, as like I have accessed the method from the child class through associated object, similarly I have to access the method from the parent class. So in order to access the method from the parent class, what I can do, I can use object x dot sup. So I can try to use, you can try to use it here, like I can try to call that. I'll just try to print like this. What I'm doing, I'm just calling this, and thereafter I'm just trying to modify that, right? The same method, I have modified it in the child class. Similarly, if you can see here, I can do the same. So instead of 10, I can have its own interest rate, like 12 you can say. So let me try to remove this. So instead of printing, I can just recreate those according to my requirement. If you see, I have just recreated, right? So just recreated and just printed here. So let me use this as well here. So what happened? This again, it is getting some error. Inserting this, where is that insert? Yes. If you can see, I can use the print statement here. Print off, because I am returning, right? If I am returning, I have to use explicitly the print statement. All right, print off. Right. So if you can see, let me try to execute this. Yeah. So what is overriding? If I create a method or a variable which is there in the parent class, in the child class, if I create the same method with the same name, then it is nothing but overriding. If you can see, the same method which is there in the parent class, I have created it in the child classes. But my requirement is, according to my requirement, I have to change its interest rate. So what I have done, I have just to call that method which is there in the parent class by using super. So I have just modified its interest rate. But similarly, if you can see here, I have just recreated that method, and at the time of recreation, I have called the method in the parent class, and thereafter I have changed its interest rate. So that is the reason why you have got this particular 10 and 12 here. So this is nothing but overriding, just creating the method which is there in the parent class. Why we have to create? We have to create, we have to recreate, because the method which is defined in the parent class is not sufficient for me. Because which is defined in the parent class, I need to just recreate that, say, according to my requirements. So in that case, you will go for overriding. Very important. In that case, you will go for overriding. Right. Let me try to go for another important point, another important concept. Polymorphism. Polymorphism. Very important. Very important. So polymorphism. When I say polymorphism, poly means many. Poly means many. Morph means forms. Morph means forms. So when I say polymorphism, that means many forms. Many forms. That means many forms. Very, very important. So yeah, how can we know that a particular thing can have many forms? Let you take one example of plus operator. Plus operator. So when I say plus operator, it can act as a addition, right, as well as multiplication, right? The same operator here can be used as multiple ways. Like, first way is like addition. I can use the same plus operator, and as well as I can use the multiplication. Sorry, not multiplication. It is nothing but I can say concatenation. So when I talk about with respect to strings, it can do concatenation, the same plus operator. And when I talk with respect to integer, I can say it can do addition. So when I say plus, it is having multiple forms. So this is nothing but polymorphism. Another example, like star operator. We have discussed this previously. Star operator can do multiplication. Similarly, it can also do repetition. So during strings, we have seen that if I use string into 3, it will print that particular string in 3 times. So based on the specific number, it will try to repeat the particular string. So with respect to strings, it will try to act as a repetition operator, but with respect to integers, it will try to act as multiplication operator. So in this simple example, we can try to understand an operator or anything can have many forms. Anything can have many forms. So when I say shape, so a shape can be of circle, can be of square, can be of triangle, can be of rectangle, right? So when I say a shape, it can have multiple forms, not only this, right? Etc. So in the similar way, anything can have multiple forms, right? How you can implement this polymorphism? So in order to implement polymorphism, it can be implemented by using overloading. Overloading concept can be implemented using overloading concept. So, and one important point is, overloading, or I can say polymorphism, is not completely supported in Python as like Java. Polymorphism is not completely supported as like in Java. In Python, very important point. Polymorphism is not completely supported as like in Java. In Python, it is only supported to some extent, right? Then, what is overloading? What is overloading? Very important: overriding, super method, as well as overloading, and as well as polymorphism. So we will implement this polymorphism using overloading concept. So we can also implement that by using overriding concept as well. So when I say overloading, we will create one method, which will have many forms. Very important. So how I can implement polymorphism? By using overloading. How and what is overloading? So overloading means we will create one method which will have many forms. So by this, you will not have any understanding. So let me try to take one example. Let me try to discuss one example so that you can understand better. So let me create a method add. Right. Method add. Fine. So I will discuss this particular example explanation with one script. Don't worry, just right now, just understand this explanation. So when I create a add method, when I call this particular method with two parameters, suppose 10, 20, it will try to add 2 numbers. Similarly, the same method, when I call with 3 parameters like 10, 20, 30, it will also do addition. Similarly, when you create a same method with 4 parameters, 10, 20, 30, 40, it will also do addition operation. So if you can observe here, as a user point of view, we are calling the same function but changing the parameters. But in practical, we will implement the same method in multiple ways. So this is nothing but overloading. You are just recreating the method multiple times, multiple forms, with 1 variable, with 2 variables, with 3 variables, with 4 variables. This particular method is having multiple multiple forms. Like with again I am repeating, 1 form, 2 form, 3 forms, or 4 forms. When I say form, you can try to take this as parameters here in this particular method. I can add 2 variables, 3 variables, and 4 variables. The same method is called many number of times with changing parameters. So let me try to create this so that you can understand in a better way. Let me try to create one more example, or a Python file. Overloading, very important. Overriding. So in the overriding, you will call the method which is in the parent class using super, and thereafter you will go for overloading. Very important concept it is, overloading. So how you can implement overloading? So overloading is nothing but the same method can be having multiple forms, right? Let me create one method of human, class human, and for this method, let me try to create, for this class, let me try to create a method, say hello. Hello. It is a method, some random method, let me try to create some random method. So for this random method, it is having argument, name as an argument. For this name, when I specify none, I may pass a value to this particular parameter, I may not pass value. If I pass a value, it will take that particular value to this name. If I don't pass any value, it will not, it will take this particular none for this. So these are nothing but default arguments. We have discussed default arguments in functions as well, right? This is nothing but the default argument. If I pass any value, it will take that value. Otherwise, it will have that default value. In this case, the default value for this parameter is none, right? So what I am trying to do, if the particular name if that particular name is not none. Is not none means if I pass any value, then it should try to print. Suppose I can say hello, comma name. So I have to print that particular name. If I pass any value to this particular name, it has to print hello and that particular name. Else it has to print just only hello. If I not pass any value, it has to print just hello. Right? You have only one method. I can call this method in two ways. Only one method in two forms. How I can call? With a parameter value and without parameter value. See, if you can see here, one method can be having multiple forms of representation. Let me try to create one object so that you can understand in a clear way. Like, let me create human object here, and with the help of this object, I will try to call the method h.sayHello. So at this time, I will not pass any argument. And similarly, I can call the same method with the help of some value. What is that value? Suppose Suresh is the value which I am calling. So if you can see the same method, it is having multiple forms here, with arguments and without arguments. This is nothing but overloading. The same method you are calling with two ways, without passing arguments and passing the arguments. This is nothing but overloading. Very important. Let me try to run this. If you can run without arguments, without argument value, it has just printed hello, right? And similarly, with argument, it has printed hello Suresh. So in this way, you can try to achieve overloading. Overloading is nothing but same method having multiple forms. Form 1, this is form 2. Similarly, how we can implement another example with the help of overloading. Let me try to create one class of calculation. So calculation is nothing but addition operation. So if you can see here, let me try to define this particular thing so that you can understand better. If you can see, I have created a class of calculation. In the class of calculation, I have one method, that is add method. For this add method, I am having three parameters, A, B, and C. For these three parameters, what I am doing, I am just by default specifying the value. If I didn't pass any value, it has to consider 0. Right? This is nothing but default arguments. So upon passing the value, it has to print those some A plus B plus C. So if you can see, I have created one object. Fine. I have called that particular method which is there in the calculation class with the help of that object. See, this is one form 1, and this is form 2, and this is form 3. So if you can see, in the form 1, I have not passed any values to the arguments. If I didn't pass any value to the arguments, it will consider default values. What are the default values? 0, 0, and 0. And if you can see, in the second form, I have passed only values for A and B. This is another form. I have called the same method with different parameter values. So this is nothing but form 2. I have called the same method with 3 variables values, 3 parameter values. So if you can see, same method here. I have defined only same method, but you are just calling the same method in different forms. So this is nothing but overloading. Polymorphism can be achieved with the help of overloading. Poly means many, right? For this method, you are having many forms. Form 1, form 2, form 3. That is nothing but polymorphism. Let me try to execute this. So if you can see 0, 30, 300. So this is what we can achieve overloading. So in this today's class, we have discussed about overriding, super method, as well as overloading, and this overloading is used for polymorphism implementation.